Get started. Sorry for the delay. Welcome, everybody. I am Candace Breyer, Chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a 9-person volunteer citizen board appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the City Council. Our procedure this evening is as follows. First, we will hear from the Planning and Development Services Unit, represented tonight by Mr. John Barrett. Then the petitioner or his or her representative will make his or her presentation. Petitioners will have 5 minutes in which to make their presentation. The board members may ask questions of either the city or the petitioner. We will acknowledge any written comments received by the board. We will allow an appearing party to express their support or objections. The board will discuss the appeal and formulate a resolution to approve the appeal. 5 affirmative votes of the board will be required for a variance to be granted. Finally, any qualified party who is aggrieved by a decision of the board can appeal that decision to the Washtenaw County Circuit Court on a timely basis. Let's do roll call. I am here. Mike Daniel.
Here.
Dave.
Here.
Mike Dobmeyer.
Here.
Nicole.
Here.
Todd.
Here.
Heather. Kirk.
Here.
We have a quorum. Do we have approval of the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Okay. and
Well,
support?
can we do the, address that one item?
Oh, yes. We do have one petition that requested a postponement. ZBA 17-011 431 Highland Road. So if there is anyone here to speak on that, we will hear comments because it was noticed, but we won't be making any decisions on that this evening.
It's been moved and seconded.
We should do a motion to see if we approve, whether we should approve the postponement or not, the postponement request.
Well, could we move that to the front and then have the people speak and
They
leave
wanna-
since we
they-
aren't
They want to,
concerned?
yeah, well, they want to postpone the entire hearing tonight. They don't want to, they're not here, they're not in town.
So not even have a hearing?
Correct. They want to postpone till next month.
It's been noticed, though, so we have to take any comment that
Okay, all right, then.
anyone that's here to speak on it, we have to take their comment, but then we wouldn't make a decision on it.
I move that we push item E4,
No.
431 Highland off to next month, assuming that they've given proper notice and otherwise submitted the required paperwork. So we're just taking it off the agenda this month and moving it to next month.
Here's the thing,
Correct, that's
though.
the request.
The people
Yeah.
that came here to speak to that, we should allow them to speak.
Absolutely, I agree.
Why make them come back?
Why would
Let's
they,
get
but
it
they
on
don't
the
need to speak, though, if there's not going to be, if we're not going to hear the case. The board needs to decide whether we're going to hear the case tonight or not. You have to determine whether you're going to hear them, or grant the request for the postponement.
Yeah, I think it would be better, Dave, if we heard everything all at once. I realize it's inconvenient for people that showed up tonight, but it's not, I think, proper to only have half of an issue one meeting and then the other half the next meeting. It should all be dealt with in one meeting.
What happens if you're not here next month, though?
Yeah, I think we should take the
Send a letter.
hearing
We've
tonight, and we can
gotten letters on
postpone
this.
decision
I don't think we're
until,
allowed to do that. We have to vote on it tonight.
Postponement, is it in-
we could postpone our decision.
Which is this Highland Road?
Yes.
Well,
Candace,
It was
if
noticed, correct, John?
Yes.
We had a comment from a gentleman here.
but-
Oh, well, we're not taking comments right now.
Okay.
Okay, I think because it was noticed, we will take public comment, but we'll postpone our decision on that appeal until a future meeting.
So I think there was a motion to. Was there a motion to move up that item in the agenda so we can open and close the public comment? Is that what's on the floor?
Well, I
Was it-
move to push
Okay.
the
You
whole
moved
thing
it.
off
Move
one
it.
month, but I'll change it to moving it up ahead and just having the public comments there now and then have the discussion or the decision next month, if that seems to be what people want.
But are we going to allow people who make comments tonight to come back and make more comments next month?
No. If they speak tonight, they don't speak next time. What I'd see is we open the public hearing now, and we recess the public hearing. until the matter is up for consideration. Anybody that speaks tonight is essentially speaking in the same public hearing. It's been merely recessed until the next time. So
So-
they've already used up their opportunity to speak.
So that means then, Dave, next month would be the petitioner and the city staff, and that would be it.
And any other members
And
of
any
the
And any other
additional public
people,
that comes to
any
speak.
new people that want to speak, who have not already spoken.
I'm okay with that.
That accommodates the people that have gone out of their way to come tonight.
Sure.
Do you have a date for that next meeting?
It'll
We're
be
not
the,
in open session right now.
go ahead.
So
I will second Dave's, I agree with Dave, so I'm seconding his motion if he puts it before.
I have a quick clarification.
Yeah.
So if we are taking a public hearing or initiating the public hearing tonight,
Right,
members of the public do not need to come up and speak to the board.
correct,
If they choose to, they can.
correct.
Okay.
And then we recess the public hearing. So it's the same public hearing, it's just been recessed until the night that we consider the proposal.
Great. And we can share that date at some point
Yes.
prior to calling members of the public up.
Correct.
Yes.
And then people don't get a double hit. They don't get to come and speak to us twice. They just speak to us once on this issue.
Sounds good?
Kirk?
That's assuming that the petition does not change between now and the next time we see it.
Yes.
If there's no material change, the public hearing is continued, and folks who have not spoken will get the opportunity to speak
Yes.
when it's taken back up.
Yes.
So
All right. So are we moving that up in the agenda?
I
Or are
move
gonna
that
be-
we move the E4 Highland Road item to the first item on our agenda to accommodate the people that have come here to speak at the public hearing.
Okay. So we have a motion by Dave, and I lost my papers. Here we are. Support from Mike. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposing it. I don't think we should break it up. I think we should do it all with the petitioner here, but it's going to carry, so.
Okay. Moving on to minutes. We have minutes from the February 22nd, 2017 meeting, as well as the March 22nd, 2017 ZBA meeting. Are there any comments or corrections on those minutes? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Kirk? Support
Second?
from Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to hearings and appeals. We will first be taking ZBA 17-011-431 Highland Road. I will note that the petitioner in this case has requested postponement of the ZBA's decision, so we will not be hearing from staff on this matter, nor will the ZBA be discussing or voting on this matter tonight. However, we will take it up at our next meeting, which will be the fourth Wednesday of May,
May 24th.
May 24th. So anyone from the public, because this item was noticed, if you would like to come up and speak to the ZBA, you will have 3 minutes. Otherwise, you can save your comments and return on May 24th and give your comments at that point. I just ask if you please sign in and then state your name for the record as well.
Sure. Hillary Heftel. I live at 2037 Geddes. I received a card and live in the neighborhood. So you've received several comments by email that I won't repeat, except for a couple things. Yes, we have a very open neighborhood. Yes, it's very neighborly. Yes, there are no barriers in the neighborhood other than shrubbery. That is not really my issue, because anyone can build a fence within the zoning allowances. The issue are several. First, and most important, is line of sight. This is on the corner of Highland as it turns to the left, and Lafayette as it starts. And it impacts an 8-foot-high fence with 100% opaqueness will completely obliviate rather, the lines of sight coming down Highland and coming down Lafayette. There are a lot of pedestrians. There are kids on bike, including my own. Our family walks our dog in that neighborhood. And there are not a lot of speeders, but there are some younger people who do sometimes drive fast, but regardless, you can't see people coming if you put up a huge fence. And you know, I understand the need to keep your children contained, but you don't need a variance for that because a 4-foot-high fence, that's 50% opaque, and shrubbery would do the exact same thing. So that was really sort of my biggest issue about this. We've already had one fatality, okay, in this neighborhood at Highland and Getty's 2 years ago, because a 5-year-old got hit by a car that couldn't see them, and that's more than should be allowed in any neighborhood in Ann Arbor, and allowing a variance that would increase the risk of that is unacceptable. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak on this?
I'm Marvin Parnes, and I live at 440 Highland Road. And I agree with the previous speaker in terms of the safety issues. In addition, you know, we object to this plan. It's a very big change to the aesthetics and the tone of the neighborhood. From our home, this is an 8-foot opaque black fence. It is very inconsistent with anything in that area. We look out to their house. It will block our view of any of the other homes. It cuts off a sense of community. And I understand, you know, concern about security for children, but many of us have raised children in that neighborhood. It's extremely safe. You can have other fences that provide protection. And this one just creates a complete visual barrier. It is just hard to imagine, you know, what that neighborhood will look like with this wall, building the wall in our neighborhood. So, you know, we understand their concerns, but we're not even sure it increases safety of children. We've all observed children, pay attention to them. It's part of what makes a neighborhood, and we feel this will create, in a sense, a greater isolation, change the character of the community, and we don't particularly understand the increase in safety. So we strongly recommend that this variance is not approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public to speak?
My name is Elena Del Banco, and I live at 428 Concord Road. And our house is right behind this house, maybe 10 feet from the house. And between our houses, and we did not object, they erected an 8-foot opaque black plastic fence that runs the whole back of our house. And we said nothing because we figured that they should have their privacy. Now they want to extend that fence all the way down to Lafayette. And we feel that for all the reasons that everyone else has said, it's just unnecessary. It's unattractive, and it makes a stockade of their property and ours. And I don't see any reason for it. We would not be here objecting to the 6-foot and the 4-foot fence. It's the 8-foot opaque black plastic fence that will completely create a barrier on our property. And the one other thing I'd like to say is that because the corner is so dangerous when traffic comes around, we were advised to cut down the bushes on the corner so that people could see the sight lines of cars coming in from Getty's, and we did. To put up that fence is to create that same blockage all over again. And it just doesn't seem sensible to me for two toddlers to need to be thus protected. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a pen?
Is there anyone else from the public to speak on this petition? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to vote?
I move that we recess this public hearing until the next time this is on our agenda.
Motion by Dave, support from Kirk. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to ZBA 17-013-1008 Brook Street. John?
Okay, I'm John Barrett, zoning coordinator for the city of Ann Arbor. And the next case is ZBA case 17-013, and the address is 1008 Brook Street. Jesse Chandler and Danielle Shapiro, property owners, are requesting permission to alter a non-conforming structure to enable the construction of a new covered porch over the existing concrete slab. The property is zoned R1C, single-family residential, and contains 8,712 square feet in lot area. The residence was built in 1912 and is non-conforming, as it does not meet the front setback for the district of 25 feet or the average front yard setback requirement of 21 feet 6 inches. The home currently sits 8 feet 3 inches from the front property line. The proposed covered porch will be set back 10 feet from the front setback and will not encroach any further than the existing structure. The new covered porch will be 15 feet by 7 feet 4 inches for a total of 110 square feet. As an error in your staff report, it says 52. The new covered porch will be on the south side of the home. If you look at the slides, turn your attention to the monitors. The first slide is a location map. You see the property highlighted on Brook Street. The next slide is a location aerial map of the property. And the third slide is an enlarged, zoomed-in aerial photo of the property. And there's an existing concrete slab right here in this area that sits a little bit further beyond the front facade of the house. And that's where the requested covered porch will be. Here's the survey that was submitted with the application. And here's the concrete patio in this area right here. Here are elevations of what the finished covered porch will look like. You can see from the east elevation and the west elevation, this would be standing out on Brook Street, right in front of it. You'd see the covered porch off to the side. Here's photos from when I was out at the property. It's the subject property from the street view from Brooks. And the covered porch directly to the right side. There's a different angle of the existing concrete slab where the proposed front porch will be. This is looking north on Brook Street. This is looking down the other direction, I believe, excuse me, the previous one was west and this is east. That's the other side of the property. That's looking directly across the street at the other subject properties, directly across the street. And that is a conceptual design of what the finished product will look like. That concludes staff presentation. Are there any questions at this time?
Thanks, John. Do we have any questions for staff? No? Okay. If the petitioner's here, if you could step forward and please sign in, state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Jesse Chandler. So I'm the petitioner, and I just wanted to say a few things about the motivation behind adding this porch. So we spend a lot of time on our back deck, which is great, but we also like our neighbors and try to spend a lot of time on our front porch too. We want to sort of be able to enhance our enjoyment of that and spend more time out there. And I also wanted to add too that the porch isn't a concrete slab. There's actually a foundation excavated underneath it. So we have this sort of like heated foundation underneath the porch itself that in the winter radiates heat. And so part of the motivation for this too is to provide coverage so we don't have the problem of snow falling on the porch and then freezing over into ice. So there's both practical kind of like living space reasons that we want to make this adjustment, and then also for safety on the porch itself. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks.
Kevin?
Yeah, Dave?
A couple things I checked, I looked at this today. Is there a basement underneath that concrete slab?
Yes.
So there is interior space underneath
Yes.
that?
It's an unfinished interior space.
Right.
And I'd add too that there used to be a porch here. Like if you look at the siding, you can tell that a porch of these dimensions were there and then replaced at some point.
It looked like the concrete slab comes right up to the front of the house, and I do want to make note that this house is significantly further into the front setback than all the adjacent properties. The roof that you're proposing, it looks like you're stepping it back slightly.
If you can see that in the drawing if you.
That drawing, I think, indicates it.
Yeah, it's
So
back a
you're
little
stepping
bit.
it back, essentially, the roof will go almost to the front, but the actual structure of the porch, the pillars, are going to be stepped back a little bit from that front setback, or the front property line. Those are my questions.
Sorry, did I answer them sufficiently?
You did.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the petitioner? No? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this petition? If so, please step forward. All right, we're in discussion. Dave?
If this were to add a porch to the front, even though I'm generally in favor of front porches because it brings people to the front and puts eyes on the street, enhancing neighborhood safety and security, I would be against it, but it's on an existing slab. It's basically to cover a roof on something that has heated space underneath it. It's will increase safety. I, some years ago, put in a porch on my front and instead went away from an open stoop that was very dangerous in the winter because every time you would walk out there would be covered with ice. And having a porch with a roof enhances safety for the homeowners very much. This is being on the side of the house as it is and stepping it back slightly from the front. I'm in support of this. And is this this isn't a variance, it's a,
Alteration to a non-conforming structure, because it
Alteration
doesn't
of a
encroach any further than the front facade of the house.
right?
Mike?
I agree. That's it.
Kirk?
Can I ask a question of staff?
Certainly.
Is this, is it specified that this will not be enclosed?
Correct.
What would happen if the property, this property owner or a subsequent one wanted to enclose it and make it living space?
Once they enclose it, then it would have to meet the front setback as well. So, but well, I'll have to get back with you on that, Kurt.
Because my understanding is that over time, whether by design or,
Well, they could enclose it as long as it doesn't encroach any further into the front setback. Like, if it's recessed back how it is now, and then they enclose it, they can. Due to the fact that it's not gonna be any further from the front setback than the existing front facade, and that it's single family.
so this, if this were approved, they could build it sort of to the elevations that they have requested? Or could they enclose it immediately and make it living space?
They'd have to go through the building permit process.
And back to ZBA for?
No.
No. Just building permit.
They'd have to go back to the ZBA, I believe, for alteration to a non-conforming structure. Yep.
That's what I was
To
going
enclose it to heated space, yes. Mhm. But not a variance.
So,
It's the same as what we have now.
Correct.
just having to, they would just have to do it again.
Do it again, yeah.
But that's not what's before us tonight. What's before us tonight is an open and unenclosed front porch.
Dave?
Thank you.
So just to clarify, if we approve this alteration to a non-conforming structure as the plans are submitted, with an open porch, anything in the future that would enclose that would have to come to the ZBA in the future, once again, for an alteration to a non-conforming structure.
Correct, as long as it doesn't encroach further into the front setback.
In fact, this is another question just for my edification. If they wanted to put an addition on the rear, even if it met all the setback requirements in the rear, would they have to come to us for an alteration?
No, because
But the
it's single.
structure's non-conforming. wouldn't
Because
it?
it's single family. Because it's single family and the alteration conforms to all the setbacks, it would not need it.
Okay.
But this is single family and it doesn't conform to the setbacks. So that's why it needs an alteration. And it's not encroaching any further.
I guess I would just, I don't know if there's a practical way of doing this. I don't think it's the goal of the current owners to start expanding the house by interesting means, other than to actually have just a nice covered porch. But is there a way to somehow note for the record that if this were to come back, where people wanted to make this living space, that it would be noted that that was not the intent?
Well,
Or just,
Well,
it would
our-
just be taken as a case?
the motion, and if it's approved, then it would be per submitted plans tonight. And then if they wanted to change that in the future, they'd still have to come to the Planning and Development Department. And at that point, they would be alerted that they'd have to get an alteration to a non-conforming structure again.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go for it.
Petition ZBA 17-013, 1008 Brook Street, permission to alter a non-conforming structure. Based on the following findings of fact and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants permission to alter a non-conforming structure per submitted plans. A, the alteration complies as nearly as practicable with the requirements of the zoning chapter and will not have a detrimental effect on neighboring property.
We have a motion, do we have support? From Mike. Mike Daniel?
Yes, approved.
Dave?
Yes.
Mike Dodmeyer?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
I also vote yes. The request is approved. Moving on to ZBA 17-012, 1125 Fair Oaks Parkway. John?
This is application ZBA 17-012, 1125 Fair Oaks Parkway. Darren Millman and Millman Development Group, representing the property owners, are requesting permission to alter a non-conforming structure. The petition is to construct a two-story addition and a 5-foot by 12-foot covered concrete porch to the south side of the home. The property is zoned R1B, single-family residential, and contains 12,327 square feet in lot area. The home currently does not meet the rear yard setback requirements of 40 feet. The left rear corner of the home is 14 feet 9 inches from the rear property line. The proposed addition will be 25 feet from the rear property line, thus the need for the alteration to a non-conforming structure. The new addition will be 3 feet 5 inches wide by 23 feet 4 inches in length, and for a total of 159 square feet. This new addition will be added to an existing addition on the south side of the home. If approved, the addition will contain a foyer, dining room, and a mudroom on the first floor, and a sitting room, master bath, and walk-in closet on the second floor. If you turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the location map. The property is located right here, just southwest of Washtenaw Avenue. You see the aerial location map of the property. Next slide shows the zoomed-in aerial photo of the property, and there is an existing addition on this side of the home, and you'll see in the next couple slides where the requested addition to the, attached to the existing addition is requested. So survey of the property. Like I stated earlier, the left rear corner is 14 feet 9 inches from the back property line. And then this addition over here will be approximately 25 feet and 9 inches, I believe, from the rear property line. The floor plans don't look that great on these slides, which I apologize.
We have them in the paper copies.
Yep, you have them in your staff reports. We'll go to the photos of the property when I was out there visiting. The request is to add on to this existing two-story addition. That's the addition looking straight ahead at it. This is from the rear yard looking at the addition. Another angle of the existing addition. This is the area where the addition will, the new addition will go into, where I'm with my cursor. This is directly to the rear property line, showing the rear yard of the property and the closest corner of the house from here to the rear property is the 14 feet 9 inches. It's the front of the property and looking towards Washtenaw at the adjacent properties. And that's looking to the south at the next adjacent property. And this is directly across the street from the subject property. That concludes staff presentation. If you have any questions, I'll take them at this time.
Thanks, John. Any questions for staff? Dave?
If we go back to the, I guess it's a floor plan thing, the one that gives the lot with the enclosed porch as it exists now, and some kind of hatching in, graying in on the, it's the first page of all the floor plan stuff.
I see it.
If you've got the enclosed porch there, and then that part that has the cross hatching in front that says it's a proposed covered concrete porch, do you see that?
Correct.
And then just above that is kind of a gray little piece. Is that the new addition they're proposing? So really, the new addition is not as large even as what's existing as the enclosed porch.
I believe that's correct, but you may want to ask that to the petitioner or the architect.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Kirk?
I didn't see any letters not in support, is that correct?
There
There is one?
There's one that was on the table today.
There's one that was sent yesterday or today I received.
It was
I
on
think
the
it was
table
sent
today.
last night.
Okay,
There's from somebody on Fredon.
good, okay.
And then there's the one in the packet in support.
I think there's two in
There's
the
two
packet.
in the packet in support.
Two?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It was one two-sided.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Actually, there are three in the packet.
Okay, if the petitioner's here, if you could please step forward, sign in, state your name for the record.
Hello, I'm Darren Millman with Millman Development Group, representing the property owners. If you'd like, I could address your question, if that's appropriate, or...
Make whatever presentation you were
Okay,
going to do, and then after that, you could address the question.
Okay, the property owners wish to do a small addition on the side of their home for two main reasons. One, to increase the functionality of that space there. It's a little too narrow to accomplish their objectives. And also to address one of the flaws with the home in that, if you go back to it, you may have noticed, that's a good photo right there, there is no front entryway. There's actually not even a logical place to put a house number. It's currently on the garage and then also on the mailbox, but that's obviously not an ideal situation. So those are the two primary objectives. And yes, as you can see, the area that they propose to do we propose to do the addition is roughly well, it's probably 1/3 the size of the existing structure that's there. That's all I have.
Thank you. Questions, Dave?
Yes.
The spaces there now, are those unheated porch spaces?
No, that's conditioned space.
It's conditioned space?
Yes, it's
So
currently used as, well, kind of an open mudroom, and then upstairs, it's a sitting room.
Okay. And then the porch, so where those shrubs are in front, you're going to modify that and have a little porch with an
That's
entry-
correct.
with an
That would be
entryway?
where the area where the front door, if you have a better
You would have a
copy on
front
the
entry there.
elevation, that's where the front door would be.
Okay.
Overall, I think it will actually enhance the streetscape in the area. And as you have noted, there are letters of support from the immediate neighbors in that area.
We have 3 letters of support in our packet. The question I have, this is really oddly situated on the lot, and it's really closest to the house that's on the other side of the driveway and garage.
Correct.
Is one of the letters of support from that?
Yes,
Family?
that is
Because they're the people that I would be most concerned with.
correct. Yes,
any-
there is a letter of support from that neighbor,
Okay.
the earliest dated one.
I was guessing based on the addresses that was the case.
Yes.
But it's good to know that.
Yes, that's correct.
We have one letter from a neighbor for Don, who's complaining about drainage in the
Sure.
area. And it's significantly away from where you are. You're actually on the other side of Fair Oaks. And then you've got Fair Oaks, and then you've got the other lots on Fair Oaks
Correct.
behind this neighbor who's concerned about drainage in the area. I actually live on Baldwin.
Okay,
And Fair Oaks, Washtenaw is higher than Fair Oaks,
Sure.
which is higher than Verdon, which is higher than Baldwin. So I'm familiar with drainage issues, and there are very much clay soils in the area.
sure.
Have you done, or have you thought about doing, or with the homeowner, or helping them to plan any sort of drainage or retention, or water holding, rainwater garden, or anything?
Well, obviously, we'll be submitting, assuming we get approval to proceed, we'll, as part of the building permit process, we'll need to fill out a impervious surface worksheet, and that'll determine, obviously what may or may not be required or needed in this particular case. I will say that part of the area where the addition goes is already an impervious surface. In addition, as you said, John did provide me with that letter at the beginning of the meeting, without looking at an aerial view with how the grades are in that. I suspect it doesn't grade, it doesn't flow to that particular location. In any case, I can't verify that for sure. The only way it could possibly would be if they were somewhere all the way down Verdon and it flowed down the dirt road portion of Fair Oaks, roughly a distance of, probably a half a mile. But I actually don't even know exactly where this address is.
I have to say, with my intimate knowledge of the area, I don't believe your addition would impact this particular homeowner who's.
That was
written
my
this letter.
suspicion.
However, they do raise a valid issue that is relevant to all the people in this neighborhood.
For sure.
About drainage with the topography that slopes from Washtenaw towards Burns Park.
Yes.
So
In answer to your
that's-
question, I also live in the neighborhood. I'm very cognizant of the issues. We have a sump pump at my house that runs pretty much constantly. I will certainly be addressing that with the homeowners to make sure that we're doing everything to minimize any kind of impact that might have.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this petition? If so, please step forward now. I will note, as noted, we did receive letters of support from the neighbors at 1137 Fair Oaks and 1138 Fair Oaks, as well as a letter from 1213 Verdon expressing concern about drainage in the general Burns Park area. We're in discussion.
A question for staff. With regard to the potential water issue, my understanding is that when these plans are, if this is approved and plans are submitted, would city staff ensure that any additional water flow would not impact neighbors?
The applicant is required to obtain a soil and erosion control permit, and with that, they'll submit impervious calculations and water flow directional map with that application. And that's the extent of my water knowledge, Kurt.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, discussion,
I guess-
motion?
I guess, not to throw another one at you, John. It's assumed that someone is looking at that and making a determination with respect to the impacts on the entire watershed, or?
We have a professional land development coordinator on staff, and he looks at those permits, and he looks at the water for each permit.
Okay, thanks.
Dave?
I'll make just a brief statement. I'm in favor of this. I think in terms of the water runoff, the addition is well to the back. This is situated way at the rear, and the topography slopes towards the front. So I think I'm not worried about this small of an addition, the impact that it's going to have on water flow. So I just wanted to speak to that's a minimal concern. I'm happy that the city is addressing this because I think it's relevant to a lot of the additions that happen throughout this area.
Kirk?
I'll just quickly say with regard to the letter of complaint, I mean, typically, we state in our motion about detrimental effect on neighboring property. And I know we take this very seriously. I think through the discussion here, we've seen that I'm comfortable that there is unnoticeable at best effect on the address where we got a complaint from. So I'm comfortable moving forward with this.
I'm prepared to make a motion if
Okay.
so desired. Petition ZBA 17-012, 1125 Fair Oaks Parkway. Permission to alter a non-conforming structure. Based on the following findings of fact and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants permission to alter a non-conforming structure per submitted plans. A, the alteration complies as nearly as practicable with the requirements of the zoning chapter and will not have a detrimental effect on neighboring property.
We have a-
Second?
We have a motion by Dave, support from Todd. Nicole?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Mike Daniel?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Mike Dobmeyer?
Yes.
Request is approved. Moving on to petition ZBA 17-010, 430 South Fourth Avenue. John?
This is application ZBA 17-010. The address is 430 South Fourth Avenue. Mustafa Ali and Ari Haidir, property owners, request an alteration to a non-conforming structure in order to construct a two-story addition to the rear of an existing duplex home. The addition will be 20 feet by 16 feet on each floor for a total of 640 square feet. The subject parcel is zoned R4C, multiple family residential, and located on South 4th Avenue. The parcel is non-conforming for required lot size. Subject parcel is 4,094 square feet. The minimum lot size for the district is 8,500 square feet. The structure was built in 1901 and is 2,356 square feet. Currently, the duplex is composed of 2 units, 1 on each floor. The first floor unit will be adding a bedroom for a total of 5 bedrooms, and the second floor unit will be adding 2 bedrooms for a total of 6 bedrooms. The proposed addition will meet the setbacks for the district. The property has 4 parking spaces at the rear of the lot and 2 driveways, one with a parking space and the other is a shared driveway to the south with an additional parking space. If you'll follow along on the slides, and turn your attention to the monitors. It's the location map. The property is on South Fourth, just south of East William and north of Packard Street, east of South Main. This is a aerial of the subject property. The next slide is the zoomed-in photo of the subject property. And as you can see, I'll point out a couple things. The addition, the proposed addition is going to be right back here in this area right here. It will meet the side and rear setbacks. That's why it only needs an alteration to a non-conforming structure. You see this parking lot right here, which is within the parcel, the property boundaries. There's the 4 spaces, the southern driveway, which is shared with this property, and then the northern driveway, which has 1 parking space right here. I will let you call out other attentions to the surrounding properties. This property right up here has an addition, which you'll see in later slides, that goes almost all the way to the property line. And these 2 properties have detached structures at the property line. So the property is basically surrounded by a lot of non-conforming situations. This is the site plan that was submitted with the application. You can see the proposed addition coming off the back of the house. Here's the survey that was submitted with the application. You have the floor plans in your packet, which might be a little bit easier to read than on these monitors. Second floor addition, you can see the addition right here with the proposed additional bathroom or bedroom. We have the north, west, and south elevations of the proposed addition, which would be coming off the back of the house right here. Here's photos of the property when I was out at the property. This is the front of the house. Here's the rear of the house. This existing section right back here will be removed, and then the new addition will come off the back of the house. You see, this is the area where the grassed-in area where the addition will go. You see the existing parking lot and the abutting property, which is commercial. Another photo of the area where the proposed addition is to be constructed. These are the 2 adjacent properties with the detached structures, as you see, that I noted are in the aerial. Here's the property to the north, which was commercial, 2 doors down. This is adjacent properties in the front of the at the front of the property. And that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll take them at this time.
Thanks, John. Questions for staff? Okay, if the petitioner could please step forward, sign in, state your name for the record.
Mustafa Ali, the owner of the property. I'm asking permission to improve the two-story house in discussion. My biggest issue is the city already gave me the permit back the end of October 2016. After getting the permit, I felt safe and did all my renting plans accordingly. An architect was engaged and project was approved by the building department. The building allowed the improvement. Relying on that city building department approved permit, I entered into the following contracts. 2 new leases have been signed to start September 1st of 2017 for the increased occupancy, which the building permit approved, which cannot be met unless the construction goes forward. The new tenants would be harmed by having no living place starting the fall semester, and I will have incurred expenses and under threat of breach of contract actions by tenants and builders with decreased and lost rents. I already released my existing tenants 2 months early in their tenancy for a loss of $10,850. Contracts for construction have been signed for $25,250 with additional construction contracts already signed too. Setback will be met, and the green garden will be at the back of the house. Enough parking for every tenant is available with improved up-to-code safety, fire separation, insulation, and maintenance-free siding. There will be lots of hardship, and I feel I will be harmed by this city error. In case this application is not approved, I am seeking to comply with all city requirements. The building does and will meet the setback requirements. We are matching the north and south existing house borders. It provides sufficient parking for each unit. The yard space at the rear of the lot will have rain garden and the plantings. The footprint of the building, because of the demolition that we're doing, will be substantially the same. I think the total addition will be, after taking the addition off, will be about 230 square foot. Like you multiply it by 2 because it's 2-story. In this improvement, there will be up-to-date new building code, fire separation, and home improvement. Make building more energy efficient by adding to up-to-date insulation, safety to tenants by upgrading alarm system. The alarm system will be interlocked, and applying more fire separation and the new maintenance for the siding. The neighborhood consists of similar properties, with many having increased occupancy in recent years. The property to the immediate west is a commercial, it's a DTE building, and the property to the north is a 6-unit student housing rental structure, and the property to the south already have a non-conforming structure at the end of the property line, so it's on the property line, actually. I am meeting the setback requirement, so. And you can see on the photos, there is no setback at all for that structure. The second building to the north occupies the entire lot with no setback at all. So this is another structure with no setback at all, having the appearance of a pole barn. I don't know if there is a photo for that one. Yeah, there should be one here. My new tenants are moving in on September 1st, according to my signed leases, relying on city-approved permit. Construction is to be completed by August the 14th, and improvement is in great harmony with the historic preservation in the neighborhood. I even required, like one of the existing awnings, it looks nice and historic. I required, it's on my contract with the carpenter, actually, with the construction company. I requested that specific awning to be transferred to the new door.
Thank you. Any questions, Dave?
When I was by there today, it looked like you had staked out a possible space for foundation with some,
Yes.
and it looked like that left more than half of the grass that's already there. So you're coming less than halfway into that grass. So
I think it's
it looks like substantial amount of still grass surface
Exactly.
that can,
Exactly. Yeah, there will be garden at the back of the house.
like a rain
Green
garden.
Yes.
Which I was really impressed with, seeing what I had seen in the packet and
Yes.
seeing the minimal amount of space that you had taken out of the backyard. Also recognizing that the parking is also there. You're well forward of the
Exactly.
rear lot line. So
Exactly.
in terms of setback, I'm not concerned at all about
Okay.
your compliance with setback requirements.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Kirk?
Do you have plans to renovate the front of the house at all? I mean, I appreciate how you...
There will be painting and a lot of repairs to the front of the house.
I appreciate how you've kept
Sure.
it in, kept the historical details,
Yes.
and
Yes,
highlighted
There will be a
those.
lot of painting and repairs to the front of the house too.
Thanks.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here from the public to speak on this petition? Please sign in, state your name for the record.
My name is Tom Petit. My wife and I own the property on the screen to the immediate left that has the shared driveway. And we have essentially only two concerns. Unfortunately, we did not, have any communication from Mustafa, so we didn't hear about this except through this mailing process. We might have been able to not be here tonight if we'd heard something about it. So here are the questions. Essentially, one of the main question is parking. We have a shared driveway. As a result, the property line runs right down the middle of the driveway. So since 1972, when we bought the house, we have had agreements with the owners of 430 that their tenants would park in the front half, our tenants would park in the back half, and that's been the way it is, and it is that way currently. My question is if there are more, we do not have any questions with this actual size of the structure. That's not a problem. We looked at what has been laid out in the backyard, and that seems fine. Our question is in terms of adequate parking. If we're going to add tenants, we need to know that there's going to be adequate parking for them. There have been concerns in the past where tenants from 430 have wanted to park in the back and have caused trouble for my tenant. And he was actually told not to park there a couple of times. So I want to make sure that is set in stone, that we do not have any change and that there are sufficient parking, there's sufficient parking for the additional tenants. Haven't really seen the plan for that, so I don't know where that stands. The other thing is in terms of the actual construction, we don't want the construction trucks and various debris to be falling on our area for parking in the back, that back half of the driveway. Obviously, our tenants need to park there throughout the summer, so we have to make sure that whatever's done in the back is done with that in mind. Let's see, what was this? So that, as far as we understand, there are 11 bedrooms, and I think there's really only 6 spaces for parking currently. So we want that to be addressed and set so that we do not have any further concerns that adding people will cause additional parking problems that haven't, that have already happened in the past, so that they don't happen in the future. That's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this petition?
My name is David Lewis. I'm the architect for the project. I'm at 440 South Main Street. Just wanted to mention a couple things. One, I know it's kind of obvious, but I just wanted to mention that, the addition is at the back of the house. And the front of the house is very nice. And this addition will have zero impact on, the street view and the immediate neighborhood. The other thing I wanted to point out was that not only is Mustafa adding bedrooms, but he's also adding bathrooms. So I believe the quality of this particular duplex will greatly increase. I think it's important. I'm happy to see student housing in Ann Arbor become better, and I think this work is going to make this a better place for students to live. And also, just to kind of reiterate, about the size. When John mentioned the size of the addition, he gave a number for the whole entire addition, but when you subtract for the part of the existing addition that we're demolishing, the increased footprint for the structure is only 220 square feet. So as Dave noticed when he saw the lines out for the foundation, it's not a gigantic addition once you subtract the part of the not so beautiful part of the house that was added at some point later that we're going to be taking down. And if anyone has any questions that are related to the architecture, I'm happy to answer those questions.
Thank you. Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
We'll get to discussion in a
Okay.
bit.
Well,
Any other comments?
I'm Pat Petit. I'm Tom's husband. We own the house to the left, the brown house. Parking. Currently, to my knowledge, the 3 spaces in the back of Mustafa's house are rented to people that work downtown. To my knowledge and from my tenant's knowledge, they are not tenant parking currently. If you remove those 3 spaces and you not make them available for tenants, we now only have 4 spaces for 11 rooms. So I want to make, I would urge that the parking be really considered, because it really should be tenant parking. Right now, those 3 spaces in the back are not available to his tenants, which has been causing problems for our tenants because of the shared driveway. That's it. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public to speak on this petition? Okay, we're in discussion. Mike?
So while I'm sympathetic to the petitioner's reliance on building permits and, leases, signing things, to me, that doesn't enter into my calculation at all. Like, whoever screwed up, if it was the city not telling you, you not doing your research, your architect not telling you, there's remedies for that outside of this zoning board, so I'm not taking those things into account at all. That being said, the fact that this is, to me, a modest addition that will improve the look of the back of the home, as well as the function inside the home, as well as that it's not violating the rear setback, to me is enough to approve it, so I'm going to vote for this.
Dave?
A question for staff. Are there parking requirements in this part of the city?
There are, and each unit is required to have 1.5 parking spaces for a total of 3, and I was told that there are 6. So they double the required parking from what I was told.
So if some of those spaces are rented to other users, does that have like other downtown merchants, for example, doesn't that have an impact? Or do we have a requirement they have to have 3 spaces available for their tenants?
This is the first I've heard of it tonight, and so he has to meet the parking, which is 3 spaces.
So that could be a complaint to our zoning code enforcement?
It could be.
If that isn't happening?
It could be, but I would strongly suggest to the property owner to meet the parking, and if you're, probably even exceed it. If I had 6 spaces, I would utilize those for my tenants.
Right. Am I allowed to ask a question of the petitioner?
Yes.
If I could ask, is it Mr. Mustafa? Yes. If you could come to the podium momentarily. I think your neighbor is raising legitimate issues about the parking.
Correct.
And I would urge you to do what you need to meet the code.
Yes.
But additionally, while the construction is happening, if you have a shared arrangement where you've got apparently your tenants park in front and your neighbor's tenants park in the rear, is that the arrangement you have now?
Actually, these spots, all their leases will be end before, like, August 31st. And they will not be renewed. If you do not want me to renew them, I will not renew them.
Okay, but while the construction is going on, what I
Yes,
would
if you let me
ask you if it might be possible to talk to your neighbor.
Yes, I will.
And see if your neighbor.
Definitely will. We've been neighbors for a long time.
If your neighbor's
I
tenants.
apologize, I did not tell them about it.
If your neighbor's tenants could park in the front.
Yes.
Then they
Of
would be
course.
removed from whatever construction is happening in the rear. So it's just, if it's possible for you to do that, I would urge you.
I'm using actually the driveway on the other side, which is very close to the addition, so they will not go your side at
Okay.
all.
Good to hear.
They will not be there at all.
Okay, good.
Are the back spaces available to the tenants?
The other side of the, like the north side
Yeah,
of the house.
that's where you're gonna
Well,
use the access.
Instead of
Exactly.
doing this,
So you will not be,
Stop.
I'm sorry.
instead of doing this during our public hearing and while we're considering, I would urge you to do this and work out whatever agreements you
Of course.
can to facilitate a neighborly accommodation that
Of
allows
course.
this.
I'll-
I think it's a good addition, but I encourage you, and there's been we've had a lot of letters in support of this,
I appreciate
I
it.
would say. But I would encourage you to, separate from right here, right this moment,
Of course.
to engage with
I'll
your
keep
neighbors.
them happy, I promise.
Thank you. Any other discussion items? Kirk, yes.
Thanks. A question for staff. Were the required setbacks noted in here? And what are the setbacks?
Sides are 12 feet and the rear is 25, I believe. The rear is 30 and the sides are 12.
So this isn't even close to the,
Two-family?
either way, this is not encroaching on the
No,
rear.
it meets the setback.
Okay. Can you comment on the procedural issue with the permit and the ZBA and the order in which that happened?
I can. The permit was reviewed and issued, and at about 2 or 3 months later, there was a revision submitted, and then it was caught that it needed an alteration to a non-conforming structure. And at that point, I communicated with the property owner and let him know that we needed to put a hold on the application, and then he needed to go through this process. And that's what brings us here tonight.
So something was caught during the revision, but the original should have come to ZBA regardless of the revision?
Correct.
Okay. And there were no letters objecting, is that correct?
Not that I can recall.
No, I will note that we received
we have one?
several letters of
Support,
support.
yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like 9 letters of support that were all included in our packet.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, questions, motions?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go for it, Dave.
Petition ZBA 17-010, 430 South Fourth Avenue. Permission to alter a non-conforming structure. Based on the following findings of fact and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants permission to alter a non-conforming structure per submitted plans. A, the alteration complies as nearly as practicable with the requirements of the zoning chapter and will not have a detrimental effect on neighboring property.
Do I have a motion, do I have support? Support from Nicole? Heather?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Permission is granted. Moving forward to ZBA 17-014, 1601 Laird Drive. John?
Give me 1 second to catch up with the slides, because they were altered tonight due to the process. All right, this is ZBA case 17-014. The address is 1601 Laird. Camille Kransky, property owner, is requesting a variance from Chapter 55, Section 5:57, which is averaging an existing front setback line in order to construct a new 2-family residential duplex on a corner lot. The subject parcel is zoned R2A, 2-family, and the lot is 10,541 square feet in area. There is an existing vacant home that will be demolished and replaced with a new duplex that will contain 2,500 square feet per unit. The first floor of each unit will comprise 1,175 square feet, and the second floor of each unit will consist of 1,329 square feet. The total of the proposed building footprint will be 3,370 square feet and will cover 32% of the lot. The average front setback on Laird Drive is 28 feet 3 inches. The applicant is requesting a 2-foot 3-inch variance in order to construct the duplex at 26 feet from the property line on the Laird Drive side of the lot. The average front setback on Broadway Street is 33 feet. The applicant is requesting a 7-foot 6-inch variance to allow the duplex to be built at 25 feet 6 inches on the Broadway side of the lot. If you'll turn your attention to the monitor, you'll see the highlighted property. It's at the corner of Broadway Street and Laird Drive. Next slide you see is the aerial. And the third slide is the zoomed-in aerial of the existing property at the corner of the two subject streets, and you see the existing residential unit on the lot now. It's a survey that was submitted with the application. This is the floor plan layout of the two units, the duplex. You can see how they're oriented. They will have a double driveway and will face Laird Drive. So another elevation or floor plan of the, it's the basement plan of the project. It's the first floor plan of the project. It's a little difficult to see. It's easier in your packets. Elevation of the proposed duplex. Here's a photo of the existing residential unit on the property now. This is the same side of the street going north towards on Laird and looking at the adjacent properties. This is to the west, and this is the property on Broadway Street. This is from the corner of Broadway and Laird, and you see the stake in front of me. And the proposed duplex will be on the other side of this tree. This is the property stake and going down Broadway. And you see the adjacent property, and then you see the existing tree. This is the Laird Drive side of the property. You see the existing stake, the property corner, and then it would be, the project would be proposed to be 26 feet back from that. More photos from the corner of Broadway and Laird. This is from the driveway looking onto Broadway. And this is the area where the proposed duplex would be constructed. And that's the end of my presentation. I'll take any questions at this time. I will point out the fact that we have received a lot of correspondence in this case. And I will state for the board that two things. The applicant is not in the historic district, and the applicant has a right to build a duplex. It's R2A zoning. I'll take any questions at this time.
Thanks, John. Any questions? Doug?
Yeah, I do have a question for you, John. If it is a corner lot, so it needs to meet two front setback requirements, if it were to do that, would it still be possible to build on this property if it met both front setback requirements? From my reading of this, the answer would be yes, even though the current project doesn't. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, but I will note that the proposed project meets the district setback requirements of 25 feet. It's this additional averaging of front setback, and you average the side of both sides on Broadway and Laird, and it shrinks the building envelope even further.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but it does meet the average setback then for the district?
No, it does not. That's why we're here tonight. It meets the district requirement of 25 feet. Then there's an additional 8 feet on the Broadway side, and then the 2 feet, 3 inches on the Laird side. And that's what the applicant is requesting, to seek a variance from those two average front setbacks. He meets the district requirements.
Any other questions for staff? Kirk?
May I just clarify by saying it meets what would otherwise be the default district setbacks, but not as applied with the averaging? Would that be correct?
If you want to call it default,
Or-
I call it the required district, which is R2A requires a 25-foot front setback. But Ann Arbor has a rule called averaging existing front setback.
Got it. And you said this is not in the historic district?
It is not. The
Are
property
there-
to the west is.
And why is it not in the district?
I didn't designate historic districts, so, and that was done probably before I was born. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know.
Architectural controls on this other than building envelope?
Correct. That's why we're here tonight. We're not here to, you know, the architectural design of the project is not what's being decided tonight.
Okay. Thanks.
He can build whatever style and duplex that he wants by right.
Any other questions for staff? Heather?
Yes, I do. So I'm just trying to decipher this is meeting the side yard setback on the, which way is north?
Adjacent to the neighbor on Broadway? It is.
Um,
That's a required 5 foot, and he's going to be 6 feet from that side.
Okay, and also meeting.
And then the rear setback to the neighbor to the north is the rear yard, which is 30 feet, and he meets that 30 feet.
How do you decide?
The rear yard is determined off the shorter linear footage of the two public right-of-ways, and that
Okay.
would be the Broadway side, so the rear yard is opposite of Broadway.
Okay, so the two variances are the 7'6" from Broadway and the 2'3" from Laird.
Correct.
And that's-
Additional questions for staff? Okay. If the petitioner is here, if you could please step forward, sign in, and state your name for the record.
My name is Camille Krainsky, and I'm the owner of 1601 Laird.
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't catch your name.
Camille Krainsky, 1601 Laird. And I'm a future also occupant of one of the units. So our family is actually moving from Novi. We used to live in Ann Arbor. We're moving back to Ann Arbor. We're going to occupy one of the units that are proposed. We're requesting 2 variances. I want to mention for the record that not of the side, back, or front setback, but only of the setback averages. We're meeting, like I said, we're meeting the Ann Arbor, whatever John actually mentioned, there's a name for it, but we're meeting that. Reason for a variance is due to multiple hardship, in our opinion. We are a corner lot, which reduces our building space significantly due to required 2 front setbacks. So we don't have just one, we have 2 of them. And we're currently meeting them, we're just not meeting an averages, which is an additional, what we consider hardship, which further pushes our building envelope. The duplex being built requires 2 driveways on Laird side, and each curb cut has to have a minimum required separation, which we had to meet, leaving us few design options. Basically, in other words, there was another hardship that in order for us to actually have 2 driveways, we have to have them off of Laird because that's enough space to actually allow that, and that's how the unit has to be positioned. And there is additional law that requires a separation between the driveways, which really leaves us very few options in terms of the design. So that would be our 3rd hardship. So I want to move, first address the Laird, which we're asking for 2 feet, 3 inches, which is basically 2 pieces of paper that I'm holding in my hand. Our variance facing Laird, the neighbor house on 1621 Laird, which is used for averaging, was built slightly further back than an existing house we intend to replace. I have not had a chance to speak with the owner architect who built the home, but it may have been surely out of a setback average based on the existing house at 1601 Laird, which is my house right now, with a little extra room since he could spare it. After all, it is clear to see that a lot at 1625, which my averages are based on, is more than 3 times deeper than 1601, which is my lot. Additionally, the neighbor at 1625 has a garage with no windows on the side. We're already meeting the required 30-foot setback on that side. And the next house over is less than 15 feet from the property line. In other words, Leard's site has multiple irregular frontages. As far as I know, also there hasn't been any opposition to that particular variance from the neighbors. Second variance is the probably more controversial one. It's a Broadway 7 foot and 6 inches variance. So our argument is this. Many turn-of-the-century homes on Broadway were built with significantly smaller setbacks than what we are asking for. The lower part features setbacks. The lower part of Broadway actually features a lot of homes with setbacks as little as 10 feet from the street. As you reach the top of the hill, newer homes built in the 1930s are set further back. The reasons for doing so may have been practical. For instance, when 1601 Broadway was built in 1936, which is also a house that we have to use the average for, it took an advantage of a naturally occurring hillside to have a drive-under garage at the basement level accessible from the side. This was possible in part because its frontage is 3 times the width of neighboring properties. So it's completely property that's outside of the, I would say, a norm in this area. In fact, it is the only home on Broadway to have full semicircle driveway with 2 separate curb cuts. This was out of character for the neighborhood then, and it's out of character now. Part of the design challenge we face is that we need to have both garage entrances and front entries facing Lear, which affects the setback facing Broadway. There's no street side parking on Lear, so the 2-car garage for each unit is not in practical desire, but a necessity. Additionally, we were trying to meet a variety of other requirements, like the distance between driveway curb cuts for the 2 units. I would like to emphasize that the deep setback is not characteristic of all of the Broadway, but only the upper part. To me, smaller setback creates a close, cozy neighborhood feel rather than widely spaced suburban feel or rural feel. And the current NARPA standard is 25 feet, which we're meeting. Additionally, the zoning is already set as R2A, but many of the neighbors have single-family residences. We are comparing how the lots are being used as a single-family homes versus a duplex use, which is, in our opinion, is a higher density, more efficient use of space for the city lot. To put in perspective, we're requesting variance only slightly longer than my height.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the petitioner? Mike?
Quick question for you. So if you did reduce the design to meet the average setback, it would just eat into living space, but you could still have the structure.
So the problem with the we tried multiple ways to reduce the structure from the beginning of designing this. This process took almost 8 months of design. And we were trying to actually to have houses of a smaller footprint. The problem is because of where we have to face the house, where the driveways have to come in, and the required separation between the driveways. Those are other rules that we have to meet. In fact, we actually had to redesign the house the moment we actually found out about the separation between the driveways. There are certain elements of the house, like staircases, that can only work in a particular setup. Otherwise, they walk into, for example, a bedroom, eliminating, for example, turning a 3-bedroom house into a 2-bedroom house. Again, this house is actually a 3-bedroom house. It would eliminate another bedroom, would become a 2-bedroom house. There are just some simply architectural limitations due to averaging laws. Like I said, we took advantage. We are meeting all the setbacks as per. In fact, one of the variants that we're requesting, the reason we pushed the house actually forward by another foot, that's why there's a 6 feet in the very back from one of our neighbors, because we were trying to just add a little bit extra room between us and the lady. Otherwise, I would just be asking for 1 foot and 3 inches, okay? But I'm asking for 2 feet and 3 inches from the Lear side. And that's the reason to afford a little bit of buffer between us. But yeah, architecturally it's limiting. And that's why we tried this for almost 8 months and redesigning the house in multiple different ways. And either things are not working out or we have to switch, for example, to 1-car garages. Again, Lear is a no parking street. there's a limitations, we just, you know, I mean, realistically, we can just only have one car parked, and none of our friends or people that come to visit us could easily park. I don't know if that answers your
Yep,
question, I'm sorry.
It does, thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
Well, I guess I do, whether it's petitioner or staff. It is zoned R2A. Does that mean building a single-family residence is prohibited?
No.
Because there is a single-family residence. Well, yeah.
Just not sure why that's so funny.
So,
I'm sorry, what's your question?
have you looked at building a single-family residence, sir?
Yes, we did. We are actually building this as a duplex for financial reason, and not exactly because I know what everybody thinks when they think financial reasons. They automatically think, you know, just to get rich quick. Part of it is actually so we can afford to live in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor is a very pricey town. We actually live right now in Novi. The lot that we bought and built a house in Novi cost 1/4 of what the lot costs here in Ann Arbor. So we have a small child. We're trying to put her in schools here. And one of the ways of affording it is to honestly build a duplex and live in one and sell one. So this is a reason for us.
I guess.
And we have a duplex designation.
Okay, understood, sir. Did you, so it sounds like it wouldn't be financially feasible for you, but it would be feasible to construct a single-family residence on this lot?
Oh yes, single-family residence, absolutely. I don't want to speculate on it because that's not what we're proposing or building. You know, I'm just asking for what I think is reasonable setbacks, and like I said, variance, and we're meeting the actual city requirements. And a lot of houses along Broadway, you just keep walking down on Broadway, have setbacks that are 10 feet away from sidewalk. And that's a city neighborhood. This is a city. You know, one thing I kind of don't understand is that we are trying to create higher density living, you know, have more people in the city, and I think that's a good thing. I want to be closer to the sidewalk. I want to meet and greet the neighbors. You know, some people want to have a really huge yard, but I think the future of the city is actually being closer together. So, I mean, that's obviously my opinion.
I'm well familiar with the street. I bike up and down that street a lot, so I know the neighborhood well.
Additional questions, Dave?
Have you looked at designing or coming in and asking us, for example, for a setback variance on the Laird side, which has less impact on more heavily trafficked street, Broadway, and still comply with the average setback on Broadway?
I'm sorry, you're saying about Laird setback?
Like, just come in for a variance for Laird and not for Broadway.
Well, Laird is, well, I'm asking for 2 variances.
Right, I understand
right
that. But have you looked at the possibility of doing that, a more minimally impactful structure that retains that average setback on Broadway?
Well, like I said, we tried, there's some limitations because I'm also going against the law that requires curb cuts to be separated by a certain distance, and I can only have driveways from the Laird side. If you know, I could have it, you know, different many ways, obviously we could try it different ways, but me being a corner lot, I am very limited by a variety of different options that I can pick. And, you know, our lot, our percentage of building envelope is only 32% of the actual lot. There's single-family homes, they're like one next to us, our neighbors, 24%. We are at 2 houses, so I think that's a lot more efficient use of space, actually.
Right.
But
Have you looked at, for example, if you're renting out one of the units and living in the other, doing a one-car garage for the rental?
well, like I said, Laird has no street parking,
I
so it
understand
is
that.
very limiting, so that's why.
There
we
is
decided to
on-street
pursue-
parking, by the way, right there on Broadway.
On
Because
Broadway, yes,
I
on
park
Broadway,
there
and
today.
it's very, very limited, and most of the student rentals in the area are occupying it. We've been monitoring this, and it's almost always taken.
I had no trouble parking there today.
Sir, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to argue your
Okay.
experience.
Right, okay.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
I have a
Nicole?
question for staff. Can you explain the 2 driveways requirement and the separation between them?
That's an engineering requirement, and I believe it was a minimum of 12 feet separation between 2 driveways.
Are 2 driveways required for a duplex?
Well, in order for him to have, if he had 2 garages side by side, the maximum for a residential driveway width would be 24 feet. And so initially, when he came to engineering and zoning, the driveway was much wider than that. So that's why he went with the split driveway. And then once he went with the split driveway, he was only going to have it 1 or 2 feet apart, and engineering told him it had to be a 12-foot distance.
Kirk?
I'm sorry, were you finished?
done?
I'm done, thank you.
Just to clarify, so 2 driveways are not required, 2 garages are not required?
No, there's, no.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Heather, did you still have a question?
Oh, Nicole asked
Okay.
mine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone here from the public to speak on this? If you could please come forward, state your name for the record. I will note in the interim that we received letters of objection from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 adjacent parcels.
Can I go ahead?
Mhm.
Hi, my name's Audra Winslow. I live in 1605 Harball Drive. We can see the structure of, the planned structure, the current structure from the front of our house, but more importantly, we live right at the corner of where Laird turns into Harball, and Harball is a dead-end street. So people drive down Laird and turn on Harball, realize it's a dead end, and they often turn around in our driveway. So I can speak very well for the car traffic. And I can also speak for the foot traffic because our property adjusts to the path that connects Laird to Plymouth. So many children, many dogs, many bicyclists go up that path just to catch a bus or go to school or so on. So just a reminder, there are no sidewalks or parking on Laird or Harball. So there's a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people going through. So I'd like to express 2 concerns. One is safety. I'm afraid that if with any variance, there's a chance with all the foot traffic, people are in the street all the time, that the sight line turning onto Laird might be limited. It will already be limited. The structure will be a lot larger. And so I'm very concerned about any additional variance provided. The second concern I have is about parking. Partially, it's a safety concern, but also just car traffic concern. If any variance is provided on Laird, there's less room for cars to turn around. And I'd also like to just inform the council that we expect the number of driveways on Laird to increase from 5 to 8 in this 1 year. So there's going to be a lot more traffic generally. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to address the board?
Hi, I guess I'm supposed to give my name?
Yeah, state your name and then
Laura
sign
Stroh,
up.
1327 Broadway. I've lived on Broadway in 2 different historic houses since 1973. I am concerned about the request for a variance on the setback of the Broadway side. I hope you will not approve this request. Since this is a new building, not yet built, there is no legitimacy to a plea of hardship. It's merely for the builder's owner's convenience. The owner bought this property, fully aware of its size. As an experienced professional developer, he should have also known about the setback requirements. Yet he designed a structure that is too big to build within the city's code. This is unacceptable bad planning. Setback codes guarantee that new structures will blend with the old. In this case, because it is on the corner, it presents a face to a historic district. Although the lot itself is not in the district, it intrudes onto it and should honor the codes so it isn't at odds with the houses that are its neighbors on Broadway. Please require the owner to conform more closely to the setback requirements on the Broadway side, either by reducing the size of the footprint or by moving it away from Broadway and getting a variance from the far lot line. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Ken Coral. I live at 1643 Broadway Street, which is in the Historic District. I think, although I welcome our new neighbor, the quotation of hardship is not appropriate. As Laura has just said, you have a hardship when something bad happens to you, etc. This person has known what was what, or should have known. In addition, I live next to 1600 Laird, which is a brand-new construction that is just going up now. This is a retired couple moving to Ann Arbor, similar person coming in. They are keeping with all the setbacks. They have a much smaller lot. Their house will have to be smaller. They are going with the regulations. That's what I think this builder should do. How he establishes it, what he does to make that possible, I have no idea what would be best. I appreciate that he's worked at it, I guess. But I think it's not fair to the people who are building right next to us and who are sticking with the code, with the averaging. And averaging, that is the law of the city, apparently. Calling it something different, I mean, yes, it's a subset, but it's the rule. So he doesn't want to stick with the rule. I think he should. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on this petition?
Hi, I'm Dave Hollenden. I also live at 1605 Harpal. And I would want to, Ken stole my thunder a little bit. I wanted to say that there's been a lot of talk, both on Camille's side and from the board side, that makes it sound like there's the real Ann Arbor requirement, and then there's the sort of bullet point and almost inferred as optional if you can meet the averaging requirement. And I would have to assume that at one time there was the standard 25-foot requirement, and when that was being met, when the average setback was farther back, it was creating a problem. And people came to the city government and said, we need an additional rule so that we don't keep creating this problem over and over. And it was enough of a problem that the averaging requirement was created. And the intent is that people meet it and people find out about it during the design process, and that it's not a hardship to meet the rules. It's meeting the rules is meeting the rules. It's something everyone, if it's a hardship we all share, but it's not one that you can easily request to get out of. So I'm hoping that the structure can be designed in a way that it meets the average setback requirements and that the variances aren't granted.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Roberta Knox, and I live at 1611 Broadway, directly to the west, and I was going to have to talk to you about issues because my property is only six feet from the foundation of this building, but I think we need to understand what happens with the setback here. Mr. Kransky talks about the setback way down at the bottom of Broadway Hill, starting at Cedar Bend Park, heading up the street. All those houses on that side have more than 33 feet setback. My understanding is the city enforces the averaging of setbacks based on the setbacks of properties within 100 feet of the new construction for a purpose. One being that the property conforms more closely with the setbacks of the adjacent properties. My house sits, which is right next to it, it's the house there, it's 44 feet back. Starting from Cedar Bend up, those houses are all at between 35 and 40 feet. We look at it as a different Broadway. There's a lower Broadway and an upper Broadway. You come through North Campus and you turn and you look down and you see nice green setbacks. This house juts right out, and it's a two-story, and it impinges on the nice green lines that we have all along Broadway. And that's the purpose of having an averaging of the setbacks, I would think. And I would also bring up the issue, he could move the property closer to 1625 Broadway, where there's a 30-foot setback, and then preserve that 33-foot setback. That green setback is very precious to all of us in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Paul Green from 1615 Harwell, and I don't have any trouble with the setback on Liard. I am concerned because it makes things a lot better for Roberta. I am concerned about the setback on Broadway, and in particular, I think it's may or may not be characterized in the image that you see, and that is that I'm worried about the sight lines from Harwell or from Liard up and down Broadway as we get closer and closer to the corner. There used to be a lot of shrubbery there, and there was always some problems seeing up and down the street, and I'm just wondering if that's the case. In addition, if you look at the building plans, they show the edge of the building very close to the corner of that tree. I'm not a landscape expert, but I'm wondering if that tree will survive given the building location. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak on this petition?
Yes, my name is Russ Survey. I live at 1625 Laird, which is immediately adjacent to this property, and I've looked over his plans, and I believe he has a nice building. I tend to agree with the other neighbors, though, that he's a little too close to Broadway. I don't have any issues with the setback variance he's asking for on Laird Street, because Laird Street is quite unusual. There's only a handful of houses there. As far as the setback along Broadway, I would urge that the owner consider asking for a variance on the rear yard setback, which is the 30 feet from my house. My house, I have only a required 5-foot setback on that side of the lot, and there is a garage that's 6 feet on the other side of the lot line currently. So my house, because there was an existing garage there, does not have windows on that side. So I would urge that the property be, or the home be moved 7 feet closer to my property, and would have no problem supporting that. Thanks.
Thank you.
May I say something? I will be very much open to that solution. That solution wasn't available to me, because once again, it's a required 30-foot setback. And so that's why, we were playing with these setbacks. If my neighbor has absolutely no objection, and you guys have the power to grant me this, that I could move the 7.5 foot towards the side, I would absolutely be in agreement, and I think that would please the neighbors. And I think that only the Liard setback, which I'm asking for 2 feet, is like I said, I don't think there's much opposition, if any, to that. If you guys could grant me this, I would greatly appreciate it.
Is there any other members of the public here to speak on this petition?
Hi, I'm Debbie Kransky. I will be one of the residents at the 1601 Laird Street once it's completed. Camille's my husband. I'm not sure that the safety issue is valid when you consider that the broader requirement is 25 feet for the entire city, and we are meeting that requirement that the entire city deems appropriate for everyone. So more than 25 feet is like extra cushion, but it's not really providing more safety per se. And of course, that's my opinion. And I'm saying that as a mother of a 1.5-year-old who is an avid walker And it is my duty. I don't plan on constructing anything that's going to obstruct people's ability to see down the street and endanger my own daughter's health and safety. And then additionally, I heard a point brought up about new construction at 1600, which is currently a vacant lot, 1600 Leard. That house doesn't even have the option to build a duplex because it is not part of the R2A district. And in terms of being efficient, we're looking to build 2 family homes, not retiree homes, but for people like us who might have children. And a 2-car garage is pretty reasonable for that for today's standards. The people across the street with new construction are building a 3-car garage for 2 adults and no children, as far as I know. And I mean, that's their choice, that's their land. But I'm just talking about efficient use of space and what the actual zoning for these 2 lots are. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
My name is Monica Debeck of 1602 Leard. And the concern that we also have with this lot, if you look at the picture here, that when we pull up to that stop sign, there are kids that go across on this sidewalk all the time, back and forth, speeding on their bikes and walking around, a lot of people with their dogs, and there is just simply not enough safety zone to be able to see around the corner with a building that would come that close up to Broadway. So that's a concern that I have because I also have children, and I wouldn't want them out there playing. We try to keep them away from any of the streets, but this is, I know a lot of children in this neighborhood, and they are out there on their bikes and they are playing, and it would be really hard for a lot of the students, for example, who are driving through the area and do go quite quickly because we're between speed bumps, that they would speed up and these kids wouldn't be as easy to see. And there are a lot of pedestrians that also go up and down the trail from Lower Leard, which was previously a street that has been cut off. So a lot of cyclists also go through there, and if there's just not as much visual space to be able to see what's going on around the corner, it's gonna be a little more hazardous. So that is another concern that I have.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Green. I live at 1615 Harball. When I look at this picture, this would be the picture that I would be looking out my car window to see if anybody was coming down the street. And I guess I differ with many of my neighbors. There is plenty of sight view here. There is no issue. You're in your car, you're usually right up to where that stop sign is. You glance both ways, and when you glance to the right, you have clear vision. I think the real issue is change. And I think encroaching in and taking on the green space that that corner lot has given for many years to many people in the neighborhood. I'm opposed to the duplex, but it's zoned for a duplex. I'm not happy with Ann Arbor and the density. I like the space that we have up on Harball and Liard and single-family homes, but they have this option to build a duplex. But the issue of sight view, safety for the sidewalk, clearly from looking at this picture, has no standing. So I can't support my neighbors on that. As far as the variance, Camille has already said, if his neighbor is willing for him to move everything over towards the second house on Liard, I think that solves the situation. And then there's, everybody's happy. If you, yeah, go back to the other, the picture from the front. Okay, when you look at this rectangle, you see the house that's to the next, you see where the house existing is, and you see where the garage is. So he would be moving his house essentially back, in fact, not even as far as the width of that garage, because if I'm correct, it's just 7 feet, isn't it? So probably, you know, maybe even, he could even move 8 feet, or he could move 10 feet if he wanted in that direction, and he's already stated that he's willing to do that. So I really don't see that there's any issue as far as Broadway's concerned. I think moving the house a little bit forward on Liard should satisfy and actually make better will with the neighbor's house who is behind, because right now those houses are very close together and there is no privacy. So that's my take.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Hello, my name is Rose Madron, and I'm at 1638 Broadway, and I live in a duplex. I do object to the variance on the Broadway side because I don't think it's necessary. It is a self-created hardship. I agree with Camille's resolution to set the house back, and his neighbor agrees to that as well. I think that's a good, viable option for all of us. And I think we look at the sight line today, and we see that it looks very clear. But when you add 3 and 4 feet of snow, it gets very small. And they're right about Liard not having sidewalks. And to be honest with you, I will not walk my dog down that street on a weekday because of the traffic, as my neighbors have cited. When people come around, make a mistake, have to turn around, it can be quite perilous, especially when it's slippery and slushy in the winter. So things look good now, but in the long run, I think we need to stick to the rules. And if Camille could agree to moving his house back, I welcome his as a neighbor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Sandy Smith. I don't live in the neighborhood. I did help Camille to purchase the property, and will be helping him to find his adjoining neighbor. So I've spent some time looking at this with him, and I don't know if you've got protocol to be able to address this issue tonight, but I do want to see whether or not you can try to find a way to change the documents that are in front of the request that's in front of you. And I understand the processes that you have to go through. But I just speak on the fact that I'm in a lot of properties, and I see a lot of the real estate in Ann Arbor that is getting to be insanely not affordable. And this is one way that a family can move into Ann Arbor and have some reasonable affordableness. We've got to start thinking outside the box and doing things. If we have a delay of a month before construction can begin, it delays crews that can be lined up. It could stretch it into another season. So it's just a continued way we keep adding layers on to actually getting people into new housing in Ann Arbor. So and it's a very, very tight market. The lot itself, just buying the house, which wasn't even a 2x4 construction building, was at $200,000. So it is not a very nice structure that they're taking down. It's a lot of money for a small lot, for sure. So if you can find a mechanism to do this tonight, I think that would be awesome, and I think it sounds like it would solve a lot of problems. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Are we allowed to ask a question if we are?
No, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Anyone else to speak? Yeah. Are there any additional questions? Excuse me.
Let's start our discussion.
Okay, We're going into
You're gonna
discussion.
have to take it in the hallway.
Yeah, we're going into discussion. Thank you. We're in discussion. Dave?
I've got a question for staff. The way this is designed, with the driveways coming off of Laird, what is the setback from the neighbor's lot line, his neighbor on Laird? Right now, that's kind of a rear or side setback, right? It's a rear slash side, depending on what you call.
It's a rear.
Rear setback, okay. And what is the?
It's the rear setback.
Right.
But the way the home is oriented, it's virtually his side yard.
Right, I
However,
understand
for
that.
zoning purposes, it's the
So
rear
what's
yard.
the
It's rear
setback requirement there?
30 feet. 30 feet.
30 feet? And the way the plan is that he submitted, he complies with that 30 feet?
Correct.
Where I'm going with this is I'm inclined to move this variance and then make a motion to amend it to give him the 7-foot 6-inch variance on that rear setback on Laird as opposed to the setback from Broadway. And that would allow this structure to happen, but it would he could still build this, but it would shift towards, away from Broadway. That would be my inclination to do that kind of thing, but I'd like to hear from other people on the board. I'm torn on this because it's compliant with zoning to some degree, but it also is in violation of the existing rules on the setback averaging. So I'd defer, I'd like to hear from other commissioners on the ZBA.
I'll just say that I am more likely to support a variance request for the rear than the front, but I'm not comfortable moving that forward without seeing a plan in front of me for exactly how it looks. My concern is that if we grant that request tonight and then they get into design and realize they need 8 feet and not 7 feet 6 inches, that they're going to be back before us again. I guess in my opinion, if they're amenable to altering their design, and we think that we're generally amenable to looking at an altered design, that maybe the correct course of action would be to postpone it, give them an opportunity to resubmit revised plans, and then we'll take it up at our meeting next month or at whatever subsequent meeting we have that they're able to get their information to us. Mike?
Yeah, I echo what you just said. I would lean to do the same thing. I'm sympathetic to the petitioner with the average setback rules, but they are the rules. And it's not like part of the zoning code is the zoning code, it's the whole zoning code. It's the average, whether I think it's the right law or not, it is what it is. So if these two if we vote on these two setback requests, I would vote no. If we were splitting it on the larger Broadway setback, I would vote no on that tonight.
May I say something?
No, I'm sorry, we're in
talking,
discussion.
and then-
No, I'm sorry, we're in discussion.
But if we did as you suggested and tabled this and they came back with something in the rear setback with the support of that neighbor, I would lean to support it.
Chairperson, it has to be, if you're going to modify the request, it has to be re-advertised and brought back in another month, or another hearing, whenever. It has to be, so.
Heather?
I have a question and then a comment. I've just been looking at the floor plans and trying to understand this. I'm trying to understand how the floor space is calculated, that the first floor actually has fewer square feet. Is that because the garage is not included?
I believe so, but I'm not the architect on the project. I think so, though.
Okay. So my comment is that these are generously sized, and taking 3 foot 9 inches out of each in one direction and 2 foot 3 inches in the other direction would not be a great impact on, so I feel that this is a self-imposed hardship, and I would not be supportive of either of these this evening.
Todd?
So building on what Mike and Heather have said, I would like to say that, and I'm looking here at the Ann Arbor zoning ordinance, which is 5:99, there are 5 criteria that we have to consider. And I am mindful for the hard work that's been put into this, but I think for me, regarding the last 3, first of all, I don't think the impact on the neighbors is as severe as maybe they think in some of the public comments. But the last 2 criteria, I do agree that this is a self-imposed hardship. And the 5th criteria, that this is not the minimum project that would be possible. It is possible to build another structure, albeit it might have to be a single occupancy that would meet all the variance requirements. So on the last 2 of the 5 criteria, I think it clearly does not meet it, and I have to vote no. And I'd just like to remind applicants that, of course, when you're seeking a variance, you're asking permission to do something that is against the law. You don't have a right to do something that is against the law. No matter how much money, no matter how much thinking, no matter how much heartfelt effort you put into it, you're asking for a legal exception. And we are constrained by the ordinance, and I think clearly the last 2 of the 5, this project as proposed now does not meet that. And I have to vote no on the project for that reason. I'm sorry.
I just follow up to say that I do believe it would be possible to build a duplex within the zoning requirements. Just to, you said
Right,
something about
yeah.
having to build a single.
I don't know, but not this project. I can't approve this particular project.
Dave?
I have to say, reading the 5 criteria, I am in general agreement with Todd, although I think it fails on B, D, and D, and potentially on C, certainly if we were to take the testimony that we've heard tonight. Certainly the sentiment is that it will have a significant effect on surrounding properties, so that's criteria C, so it fails really for me, on 4 of these criteria. So the variance as proposed, I have to vote against. I would like to see some sort of an accommodation where neighbors would come in supporting this, and maybe a scaled-down project that's further away from Broadway could be brought back to us, and I could support it.
Kirk?
Thanks. Yeah, just building on what Commissioner Grant had cited, and unfortunately, by the applicant's own admission, it is possible to easily build a single family here, and it also looks like it's possible to build a duplex, although smaller. As has been stated too, just having the duplex zoning doesn't guarantee that you're able to build a duplex, or that it's feasible to. I think there are a lot of single occupied duplex lots. There's no doubt that the code can be really tough on corner lots. That's probably what makes them more affordable, because people look at what's legal to build and it's small, and that gets reflected in the price tag presumably. So I'm sympathetic. It seems, I'm inferring that many of the public comment might be driven by the style of the house. 7 feet is something, but I think moving it back 7 feet may not reassure the neighbors of its compatibility and aesthetics. I think we may still hear the same issues come up, so I'm hesitant about inferring an approval of something that may get shifted. The criteria C clearly says, hardships on balance of the property owners nearby who would be affected. So just from the conversations happening in the audience, it sounds like there should be many conversations held with the neighbors ahead of time. I don't know how many happened before this meeting, but I'm guessing that if there's some conversations about compatibility or style as well as placement, there might be a different reaction. I can't say how this board would vote, but there clearly is, we would be hard pressed to honor criteria E about the minimum variance to make a reasonable use of the land. And I get stuck on that with a lot of these. If it's possible to use it without the variance, by our bylaws, we can't approve it. So it's a tough spot. I hope a good project is possible here.
Ready to make a motion on this?
Dave?
I'll move this petition ZBA 17-014, 1601 Laird Drive. A variance. Based on the following findings of fact and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants the following variances from Chapter 55, Section 5:57, averaging an existing setback to allow 1, a 2-foot 3-inch variance on the Laird Drive street side, and 2, a 7-foot 6-inch variance on the Broadway street side to allow construction of a 2-family duplex on a corner lot. A, the alleged practical difficulties are peculiar to the property and result from conditions which do not exist generally throughout the city. B, that the practical difficulties which will result from a failure to grant the variance include substantially more than mere inconvenience, inability to attain a higher financial return, or both. C, the variance, if granted, will not significantly affect surrounding properties. D, the circumstances of the variance request are not self-imposed. E, the variance request is the minimum necessary to achieve reasonable use of the structure.
We have a motion by Dave, support from Kirk. Todd?
No.
Heather?
No.
Kirk?
No.
I vote no. Mike?
No.
Dave?
No.
Nicole?
No.
Okay, the variances are not granted. Moving on, unfinished business. We have none. New business, we have none. This being April, we are at our yearly organizational meeting. So up first is election of officers. We need to elect a chairperson as well as a vice chair. I will note that even though Mike left the meeting early because of another commitment, he did indicate to me that he was willing to serve again as vice chair, so he was not concerned about us nominating or electing him to be our vice chairperson in his absence. So you can keep that in mind. Also, I will state, if anyone else wants to be chairperson, they're more than welcome to do so. Just throwing it out there.
I have a question for staff. Is there a limit on how long someone can serve as chair and vice chair?
Well, once you're appointed and nominated, I believe it's an annual thing, so you'd be under obligation for 1 year.
Right.
But you can, the term of appointment is for 3 years, but you can be chair during all 3 of those years.
Correct.
Okay.
If you're nominated annually.
Understood.
So if it helps you, Todd, I've been on the ZBA for almost 11 years, but I've only been chairperson for 1.
Well, you can continue being chair as far as I'm concerned.
And the previous chair was chair for?
Quite a few.
I nominate Candace to be chair of the ZBA.
Second.
And I would say she's done a very impressive job for the past year, and I really have a lot of respect for that. Would you accept the nomination?
I'll accept
Do I
it.
have to second it?
Heather did already.
Oh.
Any other nominations? All right. Let's vote on me being chairperson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Vice chair. So I'll nominate Mike since he's already
I'll
said he's
second it.
willing to do it. Fabulous.
Does he need to give a speech in acceptance?
We'll make him do it at the next
I'm on
meeting.
FaceTime.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Approval of the July 2017 through June 2018 ZBA meeting schedule. I believe that was, it looks pretty standard with meetings being the fourth Wednesday of every month with the exception of November and December, during which the meetings are typically bumped up a week because of holidays.
I just have to say, I make every effort to be here, and I realize how important it is for us to have a full attendance to accommodate the needs of our petitioners and the community that comes to speak. The only one of these I personally have a problem with, I won't be able to be at the July 26th unless there's a dire emergency, in which case I'll cancel my plans to be in Traverse City and come down for one day. But otherwise, I'll have to miss that one meeting.
Well, there's a little bit of confession. I will not be here next month, but I do intend on being at all the other meetings.
All right, so do we have
I
a
move that
motion
we
to
accept
approve
this
the
as our schedule for the coming year.
support from Kirk? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the only other
Can I make a
item-
motion to go on vacation with Dave? Can we join him on his vacation?
Sure, Traverse City.
We have in front of us a draft of the ZBA rules and procedures. I believe these were last significantly changed in 2014. There may have been some other modifications since then that had to do with changing of language to match the rules of some other city boards and commissions, nothing significant. Remind me, are we supposed to take them to review at this meeting and approve them at the next meeting? Or if no one has any objections, we just
I think we can approve them
approve
tonight.
them now?
Mhm.
Has anything changed?
No, unless
There-
anyone wants to propose
Can't
any
we just keep,
changes.
can't we just keep them in effect? We don't
Correct.
have to
Yeah, unless anyone has any concerns.
Do we have the
to-
authority to update section 2 to add compensation?
Yeah.
Are we vested, are these the rules anywhere?
No, the office, I think that's up to city council.
I'm just kidding.
The one thing I would like to say is, and I think this would be a city ordinance to change the makeup of the ZBA. If we could add one or two, kind of a bench that could sit in as substitutes, alternates. So to put a request in to maybe put something before the city to allow a couple alternates who would serve when needed. I'm just, when we know that people aren't gonna be here in advance, I think it benefits the entire community to have a full contingent of representatives here considering these proposals. I'm not sure, you know, that's,
I
I just
forwarded
want to
your
put that out
concern.
there, if that's something that could be talked about at the city and see if it would be worthwhile to do.
Yes, sir, I forwarded those concerns previously to legal, and I will request another email, I'll send another email to legal tomorrow and let them know that we need to work on that and get that in the bylaws. So I think that's something that legal has to draft, and then
Right.
we'll adopt.
Have we ever had a meeting canceled because of a failure to meet quorum?
Yes.
Really?
Not
Oh.
in my time, though.
Not
Okay.
It's been a couple years, but it has
Yeah.
occurred.
It's happened twice since I've been.
Wow.
And, you know, that happens at various jurisdictions throughout the country. It just
Yeah.
happens, so it's,
But Dave's comment, I mean, it's.
yeah, it's a rarity.
Try to work things around, so. that-
It's rare.
Kirk?
Just as a matter of process, I'm not sure if it's Ms. Gale who transcribes these meetings.
Mia
but-
Gale.
Okay. Just in accordance with Robert's rules, it may be helpful to her if we wait to speak until we're recognized. She may not know us as well as some other boards, and she
Yes.
likes to ascribe a name to.
Good point.
To whoever's saying it, so if we can wait for the, for the chair to be recognized, that might help her out.
I agree with that.
It would, I'm intrigued by the notion of alternates, and maybe it could be helpful for us to know if that's done on any other boards or commissions, because it's an interesting idea, because things come up and petitioners are waiting, and thanks.
I do know that, at least I'm pretty certain that Canton ZBA has alternates. And I apologize, there was some horrible thing that must have happened on Plymouth Road that delayed me.
I just
Candace got it.
5 minutes.
The only problem I see with that is we don't have a large influx of applications. So we're trying to get the 9th vacant position filled right now. And I don't know how many you're talking about, but I don't know how anxious somebody might be to just sit off to the side and observe until they were called upon, kind of like a designated hitter, so.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, we can certainly, I'll get on legal, send another email saying, can we do this? This is what's been presented to me. The board wants this, and then we'll draft it, and then we'll see if we can get an influx of applications.
Candace?
Dave?
I actually have a broader concern than just not having enough for quorum. And that is, in order to be approved, a petitioner needs 5 affirmative votes.
Yep.
So if we have 5 people here, we have a quorum, we can meet. If 4 people approve and 1 person dissents, the project goes down.
But don't
Even though essentially 80% of the people that are in attendance are in favor of it. So partly because of that reason, that's another concern, that, having the bodies here to fill the number of people, since an absence is a no vote.
And I understand that concern as well.
Right.
And when it comes down to 5 people, that's why the applicant does have that option to not be heard that night.
Right.
Unless they're feeling really solid about their application. If I was in their shoes, I would request a continuance to the next month.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, any other comments about the rules or a motion to accept these rules as they are? With the note that John will speak with the attorney's office about possibly some alternates.
First thing on my list tomorrow morning when I get to the office.
I mean, I think we can just continue with these, but I move that we accept the current operating rules and continue to operate by these rules for the zoning board of appeals. I make that motion.
Motion from Dave, support?
Second.
From Heather, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Reports and communications, I believe we have dealt with all of the correspondence we received. Public commentary, is there anyone from the public who wants to speak? No? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Kirk, support from Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.